Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What if we were murderers?
December 26, 1996, Boulder, Colorado. A quiet, upper-class neighborhood awakens to the tragic news of a missing child. The family of JonBenét Ramsey, a 6-year-old beauty queen, places a desperate 911 call.
911 emergency.
We need him. Police.
What's going on?
515th Street.
What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter?
6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old.
How long ago was it?
I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's
Does it say who took her?
What?
Does it say who took her?
I don't know. There's a ransom note here.
It's a ransom note?
It says SBTC. Victory. Please.
Okay, what's your name? Are you
Kathy Ramsey, I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please.
I'm sending an officer over, okay?
Please.
Do you know how long she's been
No,
gone?
I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she right here? Oh my God, please.
Okay, well,
There's somebody.
I am, honey.
Please.
Take a deep breath,
Please,
okay?
hurry.
Kathy?
She reports finding a handwritten ransom note at the foot of the staircase. The note, over 2.5 pages long, claims JonBenét has been kidnapped and demands $118,000 for her return, the exact amount of John Ramsey's recent holiday bonus. The note is peculiar. It is long, far longer than typical ransom demands. It appears to have been written inside the Ramsey home, with a pen and notepad found in the house. Detectives immediately find this odd. If a kidnapper had time to write such a lengthy note, why not just take the child and leave? Other crucial facts about the letter were that letter was signed SBTC. Police arrived at Ramsey residence within minutes. Officers conduct a cursory search but find no signs of forced entry. Meanwhile, the Ramseys frantically call friends and family, inviting them into the house, compromising the crime scene. Several crucial mistakes are made. The home is not secured. Investigators do not immediately search the entire property. The officers assume this is a kidnapping and do not treat it as a potential homicide. For hours, JonBenét remains missing. Then at 1:05 p.m., Detective Linda Arndt instructs John Ramsey to check the house. He heads straight to the basement. Within minutes, he emerges carrying the lifeless body of his daughter. She is covered in a white blanket, her wrists bound with a cord, duct tape over her mouth. A garrote, a handmade strangulation device, is still wrapped around her neck. But the most chilling question remains: how did JonBenét die? And who put her there? On JonBenét's autopsy reveals disturbing details. She died from asphyxiation caused by strangulation. However, she also suffered a skull fracture, a devastating blow to the head. The coroner determines she was struck first, then strangled later. Evidence of sexual assault is inconclusive, but there are signs of prior injury, raising disturbing possibilities. Undigested pineapple is found in her stomach. Strange, considering the Ramseys claim she went to bed hours before the murder.
Well, I've not specifically read the autopsy report, but it is my understanding that they are not definitive about whether the substance in her digestive system was pineapple or not. All I'm saying is that I did not feed her pineapple when we returned home from the White's house. She was sound asleep. She was put in her bed and tucked in goodnight.
And we don't know if that's significant or not. All we know is what we've told the police, and that is that either Patsy or I gave JonBenét pineapple when we got home that night. Had we been trying to hide something, it would be very easy for us to say, oh yeah, I remember I gave her pineapple before she went to bed. Next question. But that's not what happened.
Investigators later find a bowl of pineapple in the kitchen with Patsy Ramsey's fingerprints on it. Despite these findings, no definitive cause of the attack emerges. Some investigators believe an unknown assailant broke into the Ramsey home that night. A basement window, found open with a scuff mark below it, suggests possible entry. Additionally, an unidentified footprint is found near JonBenét's body. DNA evidence recovered from JonBenét's clothing does not match any family member. In 2008, Boulder authorities announced that new DNA testing clears the Ramseys of involvement. But critics argue that DNA could be from an unrelated third party, perhaps even contamination. It was never identified whose DNA it was from 1.5 million samples of offenders available. But there were some issues with this theory. One, that there was no forced entry, but the other, that outside the house was covered with snow, but there were no footprints of anyone entering the house. So did they cover the footprints? Or it was work of someone from the Ramsey household. From the start, police suspect someone in the Ramsey household. The ransom note was written inside the home, and John and Patsy's behavior raises questions. They do not sit down for an official police interview for months. Instead, they hire attorneys and conduct a carefully controlled television interview, pleading for help in finding their daughter's killer. Some see this as a sign of guilt. Why wouldn't grieving parents cooperate fully with law enforcement? The Ramseys later insist that police treated them unfairly from the start, focusing on them rather than searching for the real killer. But even before their lawyers get involved, an unusual 911 call raises alarms. Patsy's 911 call is analyzed by experts who claim additional voices can be heard in the background, possibly their son Burke, despite claims that he was asleep. When interviewed, the Ramseys refused to take police polygraph tests. Burke Ramsey was just 9 years old at the time of his sister's murder. Yet some theories suggest he may have been involved. A bowl of pineapple is found on the kitchen table. Burke's fingerprints are on the bowl. Some investigators theorize that JonBenét may have taken a piece of Burke's pineapple, triggering a violent outburst. A strike to the head, perhaps with a flashlight, could have rendered her unconscious. But instead of calling for help, the parents may have staged the scene to protect their son. Critics argue that a child Burke's age wouldn't have had the strength to inflict the injuries found on JonBenét. But others aren't so sure.
That Burke killed JonBenét?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Did the thought ever cross your mind?
No.
Absolutely not.
Could JonBenét's own mother have been responsible for her death? Some investigators point to the possibility of an accident. Perhaps JonBenét wet the bed, a common issue in the household. A frustrated Patsy, exhausted from the holiday festivities, could have lashed out in a moment of rage. But if that were the case, why the elaborate staging? The garrote, the ransom note, was it all an attempt to cover up an accident? Adding to suspicions, some experts believe Patsy's emotional outbursts on television seem rehearsed, as though she is playing a role rather than mourning her daughter. However, there is no conclusive evidence tying any family member to the murder. While John and Patsy Ramsey remained the primary focus of the investigation, other individuals also came under scrutiny. Among them was John Mark Carr, a man whose shocking confession in 2006 briefly reignited the public's attention.
I was with JonBenét when she died.
Were there other people with you than her? What happened to her?
Her death was an accident.
So you were in the basement?
Yes.
Can you tell us about your connection to the Ramsey family?
No comment.
How did you get into the basement to play with her?
No comment.
Carr, a former school teacher with a troubling history, was arrested in Thailand after claiming he was present during JonBenét's murder. But as investigators dug deeper, the cracks in his story became evident. DNA evidence failed to place him at the scene, and his confession was ultimately dismissed as a disturbing fabrication. Though he sought infamy in connection with the case, authorities determined he was not involved. Another person of interest was Linda Hoffman Pugh, the Ramsey family's housekeeper. She was familiar with the home, the family's routine, and JonBenét herself. Investigators questioned whether financial struggles or resentment toward the Ramseys could have played a role in the crime. Linda had reportedly asked for a loan from Patsy Ramsey shortly before the murder, fueling speculation. However, despite being thoroughly investigated, no evidence linked her to the crime. As theories continued to swirl and suspects emerged, the case remains shrouded in mystery. Years pass. The case remains unsolved. John and Patsy Ramsey maintain their innocence. Patsy, long suspected by police, dies of ovarian cancer in 2006 without ever being charged. In 2016, Burke Ramsey gives his first television interview, denying any involvement. Yet the case remains a point of fascination and speculation. Was it a tragic accident covered up by a desperate family? Or a crime committed by an unknown predator who slipped away undetected? More than 2 decades later, the question remains: who killed JonBenét Ramsey, and will justice ever be served? Let us know what you think in the comments section, and for more real crime stories, subscribe to our channel.